YouTube, what's up, man? We are back on another live stream. As always, let's start off with our daily devotion. Been a busy day. I vlogged today. That'll be uploaded here soon. So look out for that. Make sure my stream is going. Looks like it's in excellent condition. All right. With that being said, man, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is the logical consequence. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than these. Mark chapter 12, verse 31. The logical consequence of dedicated love towards God is love for other people. It's not possible to love God and at the same time walk around with hatred in your heart towards others. These two aspects are inseparably linked. Respect and esteem for God are clearly evident in your respect and esteem for other people. All people, even your enemies. It's impossible to love God and not do what pleases him. Love for God means love for all things that he loves. God loves people, all people. God loves them so much that he'd give anything to save them from sin and death. You and I are living proof. I mean, he gave his life, right? So, Holy Father, I realize there is something trying to steal my love for you. There are people in my life whom I struggle to love. I find I can't love them. Please show me how. Amen. Cool. Great way to start this live stream, man. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a great day so far, man. Let's get into what's going on in this world. I've already reacted to a bunch of stuff. I got a lot of stuff in the chamber. You know, I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit sad just because, man, the investing course that I dropped on my YouTube channel for free, people ain't locking in, man. And I've shown you guys the profits. I've shown you guys we making money. Right now, there's been some, like Hims was down 7%. I would have sold puts on that quick because I don't think it's going to drop much more. I think it's priced in. But at the same time, I could be wrong, but that's the beauty of selling puts. So anyways, let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are looking to build wealth and create real passive income, guys, I own millions of dollars in real estate, and I'm telling you, that shit ain't passive, okay? But if you go right now to my channel, I'll show you right here, you will see there's a course. It's an 8-part course. Not only is it an 8-part course, but I even give you in the description a link to this course, right? And this is what we're following. And then I'm showing you guys, if you follow along and you use the link in the description of these videos, you'll learn a lot about investing in stocks. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 videos. Go through them and learn some shit. At the very least, even if you're not ready to invest, you will be motivated more than ever to get to the point where you can invest. You'll see a light at the end of the tunnel, and you'll have more purpose for the things that you do every single day. Jordan, you bought calls? I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it with my morals and stuff. I know it's going to go up. I know people are going to buy it. Definitely a good play if you're just looking at it from an investment standpoint. I just don't like the company, and I don't buy calls. I sell puts, and then I'll sell covered calls, and I'm filling my nest egg up with QQQ and VOO. That's my that's my investing strategy. Jordan, when you get a chance, check out that course. Let me know what you think about my strategy. I've been praying with it. All right, let's see what's going on in the world today. Oh, and I have in the chamber, I looked at Square XYZ as a stock. That might, for those of you guys who are value investors, that might be a value play right there. So I don't know if you looked at that one, Jordan, but might be a good one to look at as well. So let's going on with the world today. I've already made a video on the revisions or the added 4th leg of Trump's tax bill that they're trying to pass by Memorial Day. But as far as politics, man, everything is a lot better than it was before. So I'm not paying so close attention to politics as much as I'm paying close attention to what companies are doing. Let's take a look at what Walmart's CFO is saying about tariffs, because what I think is going to happen is we're going to get another dip here next quarter. At the end of the second quarter, when earnings start to come out, we're going to get a little bit of a dip. We're going to get higher unemployment numbers, I think. I mean, if you've looked, everybody's cutting jobs, it seems like. So I'm expecting worse numbers this quarter, but at the same time, it could already be priced in. We don't know. Let's take a listen to what Walmart CFO has to say about tariffs.
Here's a Walmart. There you see it, down about a little over 3%. After the company did report its first quarter results, it was just short of sales estimates. Slight revenue miss, marking the first since February of 2020. And, of course, the retailer also weighing in, importantly, on the impact of tariffs. Joining us now, Courtney Reagan. She's here at Post 9, and she has Walmart's CFO as well as our guest.
That's right. Thank you very much, David. And I will bring in John David Rainey. He is Walmart's CFO. Thank you for joining us on this very busy day. I mean, John David, I think it's important to start with that discussion on tariffs. Walmart's foundation is everyday low prices, but because of tariffs, maybe not so low today, not as low as they were yesterday, and perhaps we're looking at higher prices to come. What's Walmart's strategy?
Well, good morning, Courtney. It's good to speak with you. I want to start with, we had a good quarter in what is an otherwise pretty unpredictable and dynamic environment right now. Our goal, though, we're wired to keep prices low for customers. But the level of tariffs that have been proposed is pretty challenging for all retailers, for suppliers, and certainly our concern is that consumers are going to feel some of that. So we're going to keep prices as low as we can for as long as we can for our customers and members.
Can you talk a little bit about the pricing strategy? With a company like Walmart, you have this very broad portfolio of products. And so maybe a product that is getting heavily tariffed may not actually be the one that price increase is taken on. Maybe it's another item. Can you explain how we should think through that?
Sure. What all retailers are going to do is they're going to look at the cost of their merchandise and try to understand the elasticity of demand for that. And so, as an example, if you're selling something that is maybe a discretionary item for $300 and there's a 50 or 100% tariff on that, it's actually going to be priced at a point where it's going to be more challenging to sell the same number of units. And so what some retailers, and certainly we'll do some of this at Walmart, will do is they'll absorb a lot of that cost increase so that they can still flow that product, still be able to sell that. But the level of tariffs, at least that were originally proposed in early April, were more than what retailers can absorb. And so able to manage their margin, they're going to look across all categories of products and look at the elasticity of the demand for those products and maybe change prices on other products that might not have a tariff applied to them.
How do you flex the inventory? I know inventory was up about 4.5% on the quarter, but U.S. comparable store sales were also up 4.5%. So as we sit right now with this 90-day pause on tariff, at least those high levels of tariff rates between the U.S. and China, should you try to bring in more merchandise now? I know lead times are long, so it's a little hard to be flexible. But how do you think about taking advantage of potentially a lower rate tariff situation?
Yeah, well, that's the crystal ball that all retailers wish they had right now, is to try to figure out where tariffs are going to be at what point in time so they can manage their inventory flow. We, importantly, are continuing to flow inventory. We want to have products on shelves for customers and members when they want to buy them. So understanding what that demand is going to be, though, is pretty challenging. We've not seen a period where you've had prices go up this high, this quickly. We're well equipped and experienced in dealing with elasticities or price increases that are going up 2 or 3%, but not 30%. And so understanding by category, by item, what the demand is going to be is really important to making sure that you have the right amount of inventory in the right places at the right time.
Yeah, Mr. Rainey, I mean, you used the word dynamic a number of times here in this interview. I know in the conference call as well, and certainly that seems to be the case. When you say we're going to try and keep prices as low as we can, as long as we can, there seems to be an implication, at least the belief among some of your shareholders, you will take some margin hit there. But what does that mean? Can you give us a little more sense in terms of how you do think about the future when you say low as we can, as long as we can?
Yeah, everyday low prices is what we stand for. So we want to make sure that we're maintaining the appropriate price points and the price gaps to our customers. But we've also seen, David, that during times like this in the past, we tend to gain share. We tend to come out of the other side a stronger company. And so we fully expect that to happen this time as well. And so there might be some areas where we want to play offense, where we want to be more aggressive. We might absorb some of that impact in the short term for the benefit long term.
You see, that's what Trump wants.
So
that's good news. That's what Trump wants these companies to do, because if you can take a little bit pain as a company right now, Trump is promising these companies and these businesses that it's going to work out in the long run and they'll make it up. Not just that, but if they're pushing to grow our GDP, to grow our economy so that there's more consumerism coming because of the economy growing. And they're hoping that'll offset a little bit of this pain while Walmart, companies like Walmart can try to figure it out between all of their vendors. Interesting times.
You didn't provide second quarter earnings guidance. I know you reiterated long-term guidance. I'm curious, what are you waiting to see where?
Not just that, but I also think that between loopholes and, these companies aren't stupid. They're going to figure out ways to save on that 30% tariff. I think most companies, they'll probably on average be paying 10-15%, because some products they just won't be able to find workarounds, loopholes, or whatever. But they'll also be able to offset with products that aren't made in China. They'll be able to offset some of those price hikes as well. Eat some of those smaller margins, and hopefully in the next couple months, things will turn around. That's what I'm thinking. So honestly, I think that even if the worst that's to come isn't priced in, a lot of it is. And so if companies are doing what Walmart's doing, it might just be it might just be priced in the next couple of months. And then if the economy looks like it's growing, if the future looks bright, it doesn't matter what happens on the next earnings calls or unemployment numbers or CPI numbers as much, because people are excited about the future. And I think that's what Trump is selling, and that might be why we might be looking at new highs pretty soon. Now, this is my theory, but there is a video I want to show you guys after we watch this one where somebody's playing devil's advocate, and we need that. We need people to play devil's advocate. We need people to challenge our thoughts so that we can be smarter in how we invest in the future. Let's listen to the rest of this, and then I'll play the next clip.
Where these tariff rates will settle? Are you trying to figure out how much you're going to pass on? How do you plan if the outlook is so murky?
Yeah, there are a few reasons for that, Sarah. So the first is there's a wide range of outcomes just in terms of what could happen with tariffs. And so we're trying to maintain flexibility as we understand what the operating environment is. The second, as I just mentioned to David, is we might want to be more aggressive playing offense, being aggressive on price in certain areas where we think that we can gain share. And thirdly, and this is maybe a little more unique to retailers like Walmart that use the retail method of accounting, but as cost of goods are received at higher prices, those retailers that use that method of accounting have to mark them up, even on the merchandise that they previously bought. And so that has the opportunity or the possibility of actually resulting in outsized gains in that period. And then if you're in a period where you're not selling that merchandise and you need to mark that down, it can have the opposite effect. And so navigating these next couple quarters is really important, and it underscores the importance of getting inventory right so that you're not having these massive swings in earnings. But I'll say this, when we look...
Before he continues, this is a great point, and I'm glad that he's thinking like this, because I can tell you with my companies, this is how our team is thinking. We're thinking, listen, we're going to get less margins, but this could be a competitive advantage for us, because in the short term, we could win over a lot of customers that come over to us, to our brand, because we didn't hike up prices. And then when things level off and normalize, our margins will normalize as well. So there are some companies that are using the whole tariff war, the whole trade war. They're seeing other companies raise their prices and trying to use it as a competitive advantage to win more customers over. And in the long term win, right? And it sounds like Walmart's thinking the same way. So things are going to get competitive here.
We look at the entire year. We feel very equipped to be able to navigate this. We haven't changed our full year guidance on sales or operating income. So we think that we can navigate this and still hit our guidance. But the next couple quarters, given the uncertainty and some of the sharp swings in prices may cause sharper swings in margins and earnings. Keep in mind, just a week ago, we were at 145% tariffs. Now, we're very appreciative of the progress that the administration has made to get them down to this level, but I would say that it's still too high for consumers. We'd like to see them come down more.
Wow. All right. So Walmart is actually up 6% for the year. Let's take a look at the stock real quick before we go listen to Devil's Advocate. All right, on my theory. So here's the stock. It's trading at $96.10. And you guys can see here, this is the balance sheet. They got $9 billion in cash, $31 billion in debt. But look at their financials. They continue to grow. Shout out to Walmart. Continue to grow. This is the stock in the last year. Okay, for the year, it's the 52-week high was $105. Right now, it's at 95. And so it's almost back up to all-time highs if you look at this chart here. Now, with that being said, it's warranted. The revenue continues to grow. It continues to have free cash flow. The net income is at record highs. Earnings per share is at record highs. Let's see what the cash. So net income is $20 billion. It's got $33 billion in debt and $9 billion in debt. This and in cash, they can pay this off in 2 years easily. Pay off their debt. So they don't have a lot of debt. Free cash flow is $12 billion, which is great. Their shares, they keep buying back shares. That's a great sign of a great company. Now, it might be overvalued. But I like what the CFO is talking about. Employees are declining. That's not always a great sign, but it also puts them in a good position. Let's see what their expenses are. Puts them in a good position, like he said, to get through this whole tariff war pretty well, because their operating expenses is $126 billion, which is a lot, right? CapEx is $20 billion, but like they said, if their net income is $680 billion, man, they're good. They're good. Let's look at it quarterly, from a quarterly perspective. It keeps growing. So quarterly, it's growing. Yeah, it looks good. It looks pretty good. So as a company, it's great, but is it overpriced is the question here, right? That's the question. Is it overpriced? Let's ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows my my formula for evaluating a company. That makes this is why I love ChatGPT. And by the way, if you do the course that's free on my YouTube channel right now, I give you the formula that you can plug into ChatGPT. It will remember the formula if you have a Plus account, and it will look. Can you tell me if Walmart or WMT is overpriced? It's going to use my formula, and we're going to look down here, and we're going to look at this conclusion. While Walmart has demonstrated strong performance and growth, particularly in its digital and advertising segments, current valuation metrics suggest the stock may be overpriced relative to its historical averages and intrinsic value estimate. Now, if you think consumer spending is going to stay strong, and you think they're going to continue to grow, and you think our GDP is going to grow, it might be a good stock to still sell puts on. But it's probably not the best time to buy the stock to hold it. Or it might still be a good time to buy calls, but I don't love buying calls. I hate when decay plays against me. I like to be the house. I like to be the casino. So the PE ratio is 40, which is high. And their 10-year average is 28.7. So, excuse me. I don't love it right now, but it's a stock to watch, you know. And these are this is the type of information that you write down or you keep in a spreadsheet, and you just make sure you keep utilizing. But I can tell you, as a company, Walmart is sitting strong. It's just not the right price right now. All right, so let's take a look at excuse me. Let's take a look at an analyst who believes that everything's overpriced, and we probably are going to still look at a recession, and we're probably going to see April lows again. This is the argument, which is, I can tell you, is the minority right now. And I don't really see that personally, but he might change my mind. Let's take a look.
Wow. You can, when the Mets win, you actually can reverse.
It takes years off.
You can reverse graying hair. Maybe when the Mets aren't winning, billionaire investor, I guess they can go back. Billionaire,
he looks great. He does.
He does, I know. He looks thin, too.
Yeah.
Billionaire investor Steve Cohen, it's amazing. Says he sees the possibility that stocks could retest their lows from April. Following, I don't want him to worry about that. It could go back to gray. Following the comeback over roughly the last month, though he said that potential situation would not be a calamity. Cohen making those comments at the Sohn Investment Conference in New York.
We've seen other periods where you've had significant drops and then the markets somehow rally in a significant. I mean, this is unusual for something like this to happen, where you drop significantly and rally back as quickly. I mean, the closest thing might have been the
This is the biggest turnaround, I think, since 1982, they said.
Pandemic. Yeah, I mean, I still think multiples matter here, and growth is going to slow. And
Cohen saying that he thinks that the markets feel toppy right now. He also put the chance of recession in the U.S. at as high as 45%.
I think this is super significant, by the way. I mean, he has had so many right calls, including a couple of years ago when a lot of us, cough, cough, were a little more bearish on things, including equities, including the economy. And he was bullish, and he was right. And so I hope he's not right this time around, but he's more right than wrong. So I'm glad he was out there talking about this again.
Oh, no, don't tell me Jim Chanos is negative.
CNBC did also speak with Jim Chanos on the sidelines of the Sohn conference. He is a longtime Tesla bear. I don't think let's stay with the micro. Here was his latest about shorting Tesla stock.
Wow.
A company whose earnings are declining, its revenues are declining, its valuation is increasing because investors are pointing to robo-taxis, autonomous robots, and then I joked this morning, asteroid mining by robots. I mean, the stories that keep building onto this company as people put hopes and dreams on back of one company and one entrepreneur, quite frankly, are just, sort of getting excessive.
On Elon Musk's Doge effort, Chanos also said he thinks the government savings that'll be achieved will be fairly small compared with something like tax policy. He was also, Joe Duquesne was bullish on Bitcoin, Chanos, but it was as part of a kind of we're selling strategy and buying Bitcoin kind of point he was making.
Yeah. So I wanted to share with you guys who Steve Cohen is, the guy who thinks that we have a 45% chance of a recession, because like the lady was saying, he's right a lot of times. But that doesn't mean he's always right? But this guy's a billionaire, hedge fund manager, and he's widely recognized for his significant influence in the financial industry. He's the founder and chairman and CEO of Point72 Asset Management, a global multi-strategy asset management firm. So, I mean, this guy has also been founded for insider trading and was once fined $1.8 billion for insider trading. That's crazy. And he was prohibited to managing outside money for 2 years. But today, as of 2025, he manages $35 billion in assets. He's also known for his ownership in the New York Mets. And that's why he was mentioning, when the Mets are winning, my grays go away, right? Because he's also the owner of the Mets. Big money, big money. Now, here's the key factors behind Cohen's outlook. He believes the GDP growth will slow to 1.5% or less next year, indicating a significant deceleration in economic activity. Inflation and tariffs. He expressed concerns that recent tariff policies could exacerbate inflation, limiting the Federal Reserve's ability to reduce interest rates in the near term. Cohen described the current stock market as toppy, suggesting that high valuations may not be sustainable amid slowing growth. He warned that stocks could retest their April lows, implying a possible 10 to 15% decline from current levels. However, he noted that such a pullback would not be catastrophic. And this is, again, why I like selling puts, especially in the 30 and 45-day windows, expiration dates, because, number one, we're promising that we're going to buy a stock at a lower price. And so if the stock does drop under that price, then we're assigned the stocks, but then we can turn around and sell covered calls, or we can hold them as the stock price climbs back up. And so we can still make a profit. And so this is why I continue to do this, but you just have to manage your risks. Number one. Number two, you get the opportunity in those 30 and 45-day windows to every month reevaluate what's going on with the market and decide, I'm going to stay out for a little bit. I'm going to hold on to my cash while I'm dollar cost averaging, right? It just makes it easier for me to manage my risk and my portfolio and grow it in any market, whether it's stagnant, declining, or it's growing. And so that's why I like selling puts. So, and dollar cost averaging into the indexes. Betting on America, because I do think long term, either way, it's a dub. So with that being said, man, I thought that was great. That was good insight. I still feel good about all of my investments right now. Didn't really change my mind, but definitely keeps you balanced, keeps you humbled, because everything you see right now on social media is booming market, booming, booming, booming. And there's a lot of FOMO, and a lot of people are getting in now, right? And that's going to continue, because that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on economically in the short term, right? As long as trends are skyrocketing and people are excited and people are making money, there's unemployment is low, the stock market could continue to climb in ways that doesn't even make any sense. We've seen that so many times, right? I also think nobody really knows what's going to happen with the economy. Just last week, everybody was scared that we were going into a recession because of these tariffs, and then they do the negotiations with China, and now everybody's like, oh, it's ride the wave to the top, baby, to the mountaintop. So things can change really, really quick, and we've seen that in the past month. Oh, and I did my valuation for United Health. It dropped down another 7%. So I totally see why Jordan went ahead and bought some calls. Yeah, I would probably sell some puts on it, to be honest. But I don't want to touch that company. All right, let's continue. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. I think what I want to look at here is what's going on day 4 of the Diddy trials. Let's take a look at this.
Focusing back now on our breaking coverage of Sean Diddy Combs' racketeering and sex trafficking trial in New York. Right now, the prosecution's star witness, Cassie Ventura, is back on the stand under cross-examination. And moments ago, the judge just weighed in on timing, telling the defense They have until tomorrow's lunch break to continue questioning her, adding that anything after that would be up to his discretion.
Combs's defense has been trying to challenge roughly 9 hours of direct testimony that Ventura has already given. She has told jurors that Combs allegedly abused her, and she said that over their 11-year relationship, she felt threatened at times to perform sexual acts with him. With us now is attorney and legal affairs commentator Ariva Martin. Ariva, what is your reaction to how the defense is approaching
on November
so
2nd, 1970?
So, Brianna, we expected this. We know from the opening statement from the defense, a big part of their case is trying to get this jury to believe that Cassie Ventura was a consenting adult in these sexual acts, these freak-offs that we've heard so much about during her direct testimony. So a lot of what the defense has been doing today during this cross-examination is showing text messages and getting Cassie Ventura to acknowledge that, according to these text messages, she was a willing participant in some of these freak-offs. But one of the things that we haven't done or haven't heard yet, Brianna, is the connection between those text messages in the early stages of the relationship and the violence that we heard so much about during the direct testimony yesterday. And I think when the prosecution gets to redirect, we're going to see them try to link the violence that happened later in the relationship to her participation and make the argument still that she was being coerced into these commercial sex acts with escorts, despite how she may have felt about Sean Diddy Combs in the beginning of their relationship.
And Ariva, what do you make of the judge here weighing in on the timing? Because the defense, as our recent reporting indicated, had wanted to go at least through the end of tomorrow evening. I wonder if you think the judge is going to press for them to speed things up here, and that might affect their strategy.
Absolutely, Boris. The judge has said from the beginning of this trial that it was going to be an efficient trial, and he was going to do his best to keep it around 6 to 8 weeks. He has said he'll give the defense until tomorrow afternoon with their cross-examination, and any time after that will be at his discretion. Oftentimes, these examinations, Boris, start to become repetitive, and the judge is going to assess whether tomorrow afternoon, if he believes the questioning is indeed repetitive, if he believes enough information, or if the defense has been given ample time to make their case. So it's always that balance between giving each party, each side, an opportunity to make their case, but at the same time, keeping the trial moving so that jurors, that's the big issue here, is keeping these jurors engaged.
For what reason would the judge grant going beyond lunchtime tomorrow?
I think, Brianna, if he believes that the defense has new material, if there are questions that have not been asked before today or tomorrow morning, if the judge believes that the defense makes a credible argument as to why they need more time. Judges are often persuaded by arguments from the lawyers that there's a particular area of questioning that they want to go into that they haven't gone into before, and that is essential to them making their case.
And when it comes to some of these text messages exchanged between the two of them, Ariva, I wonder what you make of them highlighting moments where there was some emotion exchange between the two of them. Cassie talking about how much she loved Combs, that she wanted more time with him, more intimacy together, and Combs apparently at times reciprocating that.
Well, we know from Cassie's testimony yesterday that she said she was in love with him, that she had really strong feelings for him. And a big part of what the defense, again, is trying to make the case for is that these text messages are evidence of a couple that were in love, that chose to bring third parties into their sexual relationship. And
I'm telling you, everything's been leading towards it's an abusive relationship. There's a lot of those abusive relationships, a lot of abusive relationships in America, and people aren't going to prison for life because of it, right? Weird sexual, fetishes and stuff, like everything's leaning towards that,
And that at all times, Cassie was a willing.
And I'm not saying Diddy's not a bad person. I'm just talking about legally, Cassie's not looking good here.
Participant. But again, trials are marathons. So good day for the prosecution yesterday. Some may say a good day for the defense so far today, because they are establishing that at least in the early stages of the relationship, there appears to have been some form of consent. But we still haven't gotten to that point where we know that Cassie was saying to Sean Diddy Combs, I no longer want to participate in these freak-offs, that I'm threatened, I'm concerned about blackmail, I'm concerned about physical violence if I refuse to participate in them. And these issues of consent, Boris, are very complicated sometimes. Obviously, someone can consent to something at one point in time, and they can withdraw that consent at a later point in time. So I think we're going to see that concept played out during redirect by the prosecutor.
So there's still 7 weeks of this trial left, right? And so what this lady is saying, that we still haven't seen the text messages that say, I don't want to do this anymore. You're forcing me, right? That changes things.
Prosecution.
I want to get to some of the latest details that we've gotten from the courtroom, specifically some of the text messages that have been exchanged between Cassie Ventura and Combs, and specifically the defense asking Cassie Ventura about a conversation in March 2017 when Ventura told Combs to essentially stop playing the victim, saying that she loves freak-offs when we both want them. And then she was asked about that text message. She said, I would say that loving freak-offs were just words at that point. Dave, I wonder what you make of the defense going through these text messages, trying to paint a picture of cohesiveness and even agreement over these sexual encounters that the prosecution is saying were coerced.
Yeah, Diddy ain't seeing life, bro.
I definitely think the defense has won some points, because although the prosecution tried to take the sting out of...
Let me not say that. There's still a lot to see here.
Some of this by showing that she may have texted Diddy that she liked freak-offs, but at some point this was force, fraud, or coercion, that it was against her will, and she was just trying to please a man she loved, an unrequited love. But still, jurors are human beings, and when they see this, they're going to cast some doubts, have some doubts in their minds over whether this was consensual. Now, the prosecution gets a chance to rehabilitate the witness later, and that's when Cassie can say, I said what I said, but you can see by my actions, by his actions, that this wasn't consensual. I mean, he beat me up. He forced me to do things against my will. Even if I was into it at the beginning just to please him, it doesn't mean that I consented the whole way through. But, jurors are going to come at this from their own life experiences with freak-offs or something foreign, unique, weird. And if they think that Cassie at some point was part of it willingly, yeah, that's going to be really bad for the prosecution.
Richard, when she says that I love our freak-offs when we both want it, when we both want it, inherent in that is that sometimes she didn't. And I wonder what the jury might think about that.
Well, I think what the defense is really trying to do right now is to establish Cassie as her own agency. In other words, all of this really leads up to them establishing she is independent. She's making her own decisions. She's communicating with Sean about the relationship. She's talking in a very independent way. So they're trying to not just establish that sometimes she actually participated willingly in this, i.e. consensually, but also that she's her own person. In other words, she could have walked away at various points and not have participated. Jurors are going to be fundamentally confronted with these two different versions, these two different character portrayals of who Cassie Ventura is, and ultimately decide what it is. The complication of the relationship is a key point for the defense.
Imran, notably, there was one message, and I believe we have the graphic to show it, in which Cassie Ventura is describing to Combs going back and forth in her mind with wanting and not wanting to do it, these staged sexual encounters. She said the last time was a mistake and since has made me feel a little dirty and grimy as opposed to sexual and spontaneous. It seems like jurors could see this as her perhaps initially wanting to do something with him, and eventually finding out that it was not what she signed up for, right?
Start getting wilder.
Right, absolutely. So you're going to have to juxtapose the testimony from the prosecution on direct with what we are seeing now on cross. And if there's any question in terms of raising that reasonable doubt, whether there were some consensual time.
That's the thing. There's a lot of reasonable doubt here, right? So let me give you guys an update on day 4. So Cassie Ventura took the stand again. This time she's grilled by Diddy's defense team. They challenged her claims by pulling up old text messages that appeared flirtatious or consensual. Freak-off messages read aloud. The defense showed texts where Diddy invited Cassie to a freak-off, and she responded enthusiastically. Cassie told the court she felt forced to say yes, describing years of manipulation and fear. So this is years after the first freak-off, obviously. And then Cassie reveals she was often drugged during encounters, leading to opioid addiction. She testified that Diddy used threats, including revenge porn, to control her. Now, was she taking drugs when they first started? When she was enthusiastic? When she was actually texting him that she wanted to do some? And so the defense tried to frame Cassie's claims as stemming from jealousy over Diddy's other women. Remember, Diddy was involved with, what happened to that? How come people ain't bringing up, who was it, the Young Miami or whatever? Hold on. Y'all let me know, chat. Am I tripping? Wasn't he involved with, oh, we need to talk to her. We need to talk to her. Because they was lovey-dovey, wasn't they? Was it while he was still together with Cassie? Well, we know he was with other women. But you know, the manosphere will tell you when you a high-level man, you get to have 30 women, right? And this is what you got to deal with when you do that. That jealousy, that shit will put your ass in jail real quick. Let's see who. So while he was with Cassie from 2007 to 2018, Cassie testified Diddy was dating both her and Kim Porter simultaneously. And supposedly, Young Miami and Diddy, their relationship became public after Diddy and Cassie, but there's speculation that they were together while with Cassie. I don't know how true that is because they ended in 2018. Might have been at the tail end. But obviously, he was with other women. There was some jealousy concerns. Young Miami was out here doing freak-offs. I want this investigated. All right, so I tell you guys to say all this to say, remember that surveillance tape when Diddy was caught beating Cassie, threw her to the ground, kicked her while she was on the ground a couple times? They released the 15-minute long video, and I just want you guys to see the body language. This is definitely a weird, abusive relationship. This is normal in their relationship. And we've seen relationships that are like this all the time. So much so that we've seen people witness a woman getting beat up. He tries to break it up, and the woman starts attacking the guy breaking it up to get off of her man that was just whooping her ass, right? We've seen those. And we're always taught, stay out of those relationships. They're complex. They're different. They belong together, right? Two crazy people. Let's look at this. So I want you guys to notice how calm Cassie is. And I'm not saying that Diddy was in the right. No one should be beating up on a woman, no matter what. But does this woman, prior to getting beat up, does she look like she's worried? Look at this. She hasn't even pushed the elevator button yet. She's putting on her shoes. Now she pushes the elevator button. Man, I'm running down the staircase, the emergency stairs. If I'm scared for my life, here come Diddy. Hey man, you ain't put the oil on. This is wild. This is the clip that we see only. Kicks her while she's down. She just stays down. He grabs her things. Guys, this video goes on for 15 minutes. Kicks her again. Doesn't like really kick her like to hurt her, but definitely kicks her to be disrespectful and starts dragging her from her hoodie. And then she just sits up. There's another angle where when she was sat up, she was turned away talking to him. And she's just calmly grabbing her things. Then she grabs the phone. I wonder why she's grabbing the phone. Calling for help, calling the police. He's going to come over and throw some shit at her. Definitely a weird relationship, man. This is not normal by any means. From both sides, I feel like. And again, before anybody attacks me in the comments and says I'm a terrible person, I'm okay with females getting abused. I'm not at all. Diddy should get his ass whooped for sure. So she comes over here to this corner. Look at Diddy in the mirror right here. He grabs something and throws it at her. The way he threw it was real weak, though. You could tell he ain't got an athletic bone in his body. He's still in his towel. Look, he's just talking shit to her, walking away. He's not hitting her. He's not pulling on her. He's not keeping her trapped. But at the same time, the elevator door didn't open. Does he have him turned on? Because he's Diddy. He got that type of pull. But all these hotels have emergency staircases, right? Let's continue. And they're talking, and they're talking. It does look like she's afraid. Look, right here, it looks like she's afraid. She's backing up. She's putting her hand out. She's covering her face. He sits back down right here. No, the elevator opens. Look. Oh, that's security. So security comes up, and they start talking. Come on, I got you. Let's go get your things. But he's not a police officer. He's just security. Where's the police? He's Diddy. No police is going to get called, right? And so security's talking to him. Probably, hey, man, I don't want to have to call the police. I'll call the police on you. So anyways, this goes on for 5 minutes. They walk down the hallway. Little by little, she comes back. That's them going to their suite, it looks like. And then she comes back and she leaves. I don't know, man. Why didn't they release the full thing in the beginning? Because it's questionable stuff, man. Like, people are going to have questions watching that. You know what I mean? I could be off here, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And so you have to also mention Cassie's poise under pressure as she was getting questioned, because they were aggressive in their questioning, but Cassie kept her composure. She reiterated that what seemed consensual on surface was coerced and controlled behind the scenes. And so what's next for the rest of this trial? We've heard a lot, honestly, in the first 4 days. A lot of the stuff we already kind of knew, but some of this stuff is starting to be questionable, especially for, you know, the type of convictions that Diddy is facing that can give him life, right? And so what to expect next is more witnesses are expected. Prosecution continues building a pattern of alleged abuse, manipulation, and trafficking. And so the public opinion right now is split. You know, there's been polls, there's been a lot of questioning of people in the public. And as of right now, the opinion is that it is split. Still 7 weeks left. What's going on in this world? So much going on in this world. There's this meme that I saw that people are like, man, if you were born in 2025, dude, you missed everything. You missed everything. I hope it don't get worse. Man. Okay, I wanted to cover this. Because what's going on in the Middle East, there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of critics and stuff. There's two things that I want to cover here. Senator Kennedy, who's known for saying some wild stuff, he doesn't like, apparently, this whole concept that we're doing all these deals in the Middle East. You guys know I'm open to it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great for the world. But Trump has been taking a lot of jabs also at Apple and Tim Cook. And so I wonder how this is going to affect Apple long term, because they're not going to get a lot of love from this administration if they keep this up. And you guys know Apple's always under scrutiny with our government. So let's take a look at what Trump has to say about Tim Cook and Apple. And then let's see what Senator Kennedy has to say about what's going on in the Middle East. Let's have a look.
This factory anywhere in the world, in Arizona, and spending over $200 billion. And we have Apple, as you know, it's coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff.
Wow.
So we go from the highest tariff. You couldn't do business in India. We're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high, to a point where they have actually told us, I assume you too, Scott, you were working on that also, that there will be no tariff, right? Would you say that's a difference? They're the highest, and now they're saying no tariff. But I said to Tim, Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India. India can take care of themselves. They're doing very well. We want you to build here, and they're going to be upping their production in the United States. Apple. So Apple's already in for $500 billion, but they're going to be upping their production. So it'll be great. So I really think we have
Okay, so the title of that was that he was criticizing Tim Cook, and I can tell you he definitely did. When they were doing the tech, the innovation conference over there in Saudi Arabia, he definitely took some jabs at Tim Cook. Where's Tim Cook? He's not here. He's not here. That's okay. We got great CEOs that are here. And then he started naming off some like Jeff Bezos and all those people, right? Now, India has a simple average of a 15.9% tariff. And so like eliminating that opens the market up to a huge market in India. Here's the thing though, and I've always said this because, because of my YouTube channel in the past, I've been able to reach internationally a lot of followers in the barbering industry, and that's how my brand grew. And a lot of followers want our brand over in other countries. The problem is that our products are pretty expensive. Like other countries can't afford a $200 clipper for the most part. Don't get me wrong, they'll spend the money because of their passion, but it's not a huge enough market. And with all the tariffs and the regulations, it makes it even more expensive for us to do business in these other countries. But at 15.9% tariffs in India, it makes it really, really hard. Here's the problem. The average income in India is severely low. And so, what works in India is the cheap Chinese products that they just kind of throw into the market over there. And so in my opinion, it's great that India is opening up, but is it a big enough market to really move the needle for us? I'm not sure. And I think that Tim Cook and Apple, they want to do business in India because the other way around makes sense. They have very smart people. Obviously lower wages out there, keeps the cost low on Apple products. And it's not like Apple isn't responsible directly and indirectly for millions of jobs in America. right? But Trump wants Apple to move their manufacturing to the United States, not to India. Only problem is now that, we're working these deals with India and eliminating tariffs, it doesn't really make sense for Apple to move all their facilities over to America, right? All the manufacturing to America. So, I don't know, man. Yo, what's up, Aaron? How you doing, man? Hope you're doing well. How's the course going, man? The school. And so I just kind of want to, emphasize that Trump wants Apple to increase its manufacturing, and they've already, I believe, committed to a $500 billion investment commitment in Apple. He just doesn't like the idea of exporting Indian-made iPhones to the U.S. I don't see the problem, bro. I don't see the problem here. Apple's already committed $500 billion in investments to building a new AI server facility in Texas. It's going to create 20,000 jobs. But he wants the manufacturing of the phones to be in the U.S. Yeah, I'm on Tim Cook's side on this one. I feel like I do think people are going to diversify and there's going to be more manufacturing in the US, but I don't think it's necessary that it has to be done. You feel me? So good for you, bro. Good for you. I hope business booms, man. I hope business booms. All right, guys. That's it for this this whole iPhone deal. This whole Trump and Tim Cook battle. But I also wanted to kind of hear what the criticisms are about what's going on in the Middle East here. And so Senator Kennedy, he always has a lot of a lot of funny things to say.
Republican from the great state of Louisiana joins us now. Mr. Senator, Trump's lining up all these massive investments. He's made defense agreements with a number of countries. Is this a new era of American involvement in the Mideast?
Well, I hope so. American foreign policy is an enduring struggle, Stuart, between values and interests. We know American values: freedom, rule of law, personal responsibility, merit, equal opportunity. Not all countries, in fact, most countries don't share those values. Take Qatar, for example. They don't share any of those values. Do I trust Qatar? Of course not. They will eat your liver with some lava beans and a nice Chianti. Does that mean I want to be enemies with Qatar? No. Why? Because you don't have to be Mensa material to see that the world is in the midst of this grand struggle between the United States and other countries that share our values, and China, Russia, and Iran. And she is the mastermind. And she wants Russia to dominate Eastern and Central Europe, Iran to dominate the Middle East, China to dominate the Indo-Pacific, with freedom to roam in sub-Saharan Africa, South America, space, and the Arctic. And we need all the friends we can get in that fight, and that's really what's going on.
So how do you think he's doing? How do you think our president is doing facing the authoritarians and this new world order?
Well, I think he's doing much better than President Biden, and I think he's doing well, and there are a couple of reasons for that. No disrespect, but number one, he's not President Biden. I mean, these other countries saw what we saw. Unfortunately, President Biden couldn't finish a sentence without taking a nap. President Trump is a lot more energetic. Number two, I don't know whether they love President Trump or they're just scared to death of him. But either way, it's working. You know, Nolan Ryan still holds a major league record for strikeouts. But people forget he also hit 158 batters. They were scared to death of Nolan Ryan. That's why he had so many strikeouts.
I didn't know about that. I'm afraid I was out in the country in those days.
I
told you he's
Senator,
funny, bro.
I want you to listen to what Trump had to say about his big, beautiful bill. Roll tape, please.
I think a lot of Democrats are going to be forced to vote for the bill because, you add this new element
this morning.
that if this bill passes, you're going to get a 50 to 90% reduction in prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals. When you add that in, how does a Democrat not vote? I think that the Republicans are very unified and something would happen where they will get this vote.
Mr. Senator, I don't want to nitpick, but there's only $1.5 trillion in spending cuts in this bill. And I noticed, strangely, that the work requirements for Medicaid don't kick in until 2029. You see a problem there?
Yes, and we'll fix it in the Senate. But here's what you've got to remember about the bill. And I hope the president's right, but we'll see. The most important thing in this bill is to cut taxes. If we don't do anything, the 2007 tax cuts are going to expire. And that means taxes go up for $4.3 trillion on the American people. It will tank this economy. A lot of our people will be living in refrigerator boxes behind Outback. I mean, it will throw us into a recession. If we get any Democratic votes, and I doubt we will, frankly, but it'll be because they don't want to be blamed for raising taxes. Now, there are other parts of it that are important. Spending. I mean, right now, there's not enough spending cuts in this bill to my liking. Those work requirements for our social programs ought to kick in immediately. We've got a lot of work to do in the Senate, but we also got to pass the bill. And I want to do as much as we can until we run out of votes. We've got to pass this bill or taxes are going to go up.
Senator Ron Johnson says the bill contains massive overspending, and he plans to vote no if there are not massive spending cuts. What's your response to him?
Ron's right. He's absolutely right. I mean, his idea is that we have 3 Republican senators and 3 Republican House members.
The problem is that what they want cuts on is not what the Democrats want cuts on. Everybody wants cuts, but what they want cuts on is the problem.
Sit down with Russ Vought at the Office of Management and Budget and go through the entire budget line by line by line by line. We could have had it done by now if we'd started
let's go, JP.
when Ron first suggested it. That's what we ought to do. We met with the president about it. He was okay with it. Why we haven't done that, I don't know. I'm labor, not management. But if we did that, we could reduce more spending. And Ron's right. But I'm not. Look, we've got to renew those tax cuts, Stuart.
Man, he ain't lying, bro. He ain't lying. We've already covered what those tax cuts look like, so you guys will be able to see that later on. I'll definitely clip that for you guys so you guys can see, because these are revised tax cuts, and they're nice, man. They're talking about giving deductions for interest rates on your car payments. Gotta love that, man. You've never seen nothing like that before. So that would help every American. Now, the next thing I wanted to look at here is we got retail sales and PPI reports were just released. If you are an investor, you want to know this stuff. If you're new to my channel or you've been following me for a while, you probably don't know what retail sales and PPI reports is. So I'm going to explain it to you. Retail sales, it measures the total value of sales at the retail level. Stores, online shops, restaurants. It's reported monthly by the U.S. Census Bureau. Okay, so the reason why it matters is it's a direct indicator of consumer spending, which makes up 70% of the U.S. GDP. It is huge, and we talked about how the economy is not going to tank because we were listening to Cohen talk about we have a 45% chance of hitting a recession, and I'm thinking, if consumer spending stays healthy and the GDP continues to grow, we might be seeing new all-time highs, and that's always kind of like a binary thing. There's going to be people who believe we're going back to regular lows, to regular numbers, or we're going to all-time highs. It's kind of looking like it's all-time highs as long as Trump doesn't tweet something tomorrow that screws it all up, right? And so rising retail sales obviously equates to a strong economy, and falling is going to be weak consumer demand. It's going to scare a lot of people. Usually weak consumer demand screams unemployment, and that's a whole nother challenge, right? So for investors, what this means is high retail sales can drive stock prices up, especially in consumer-focused companies like Amazon, Nike, Walmart, The Gap, right? It can also influence interest rate decisions. And we know, like, we've been watching, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, like a hawk, seeing what he's going to do next, and they haven't even budged because all the numbers are like, they're not making sense. And a lot of people think we're like in a stagflationary era. So if spending is too strong, the Fed may raise rates to cool inflation. So you don't want retail sales to be too high, but you also don't want them declining. You want a healthy growth, right? Because we just don't want interest rates to continue to go up, right? That's going to crush the real estate market. Now you have other problems. This is why they say it's stagflation. Now, what is PPI? PPI is Producer Price Index, okay? This measures the average change over time in prices received by producers for their goods and services. Essentially, it's wholesale inflation. So I produce this iPhone. Just because it sells for $1,000 retail doesn't mean that's what Apple makes. They have a wholesale price that they are paid from the middleman, from the retailers, from the distributors, all of that, right? And so what they're getting for that is what really matters, because that affects a customer's bottom line. Doesn't mean that none of Apple's sales are retail. It just means a big chunk of it is going to be wholesale. And so we need to know what that pricing looks like, because that trickles down to the consumer, obviously, right? Most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't. We just heard the Walmart CFO talk about how they're going to try to eat some of this cost and not pass it on to the consumer. Some companies will do it, but we know most of the time these big corporations don't love doing that. And so this is why PPI matters. It gives an early signal of inflation trends, which can show up later in Consumer Price Index, in CPI. CPI is the inflation number. If PPI is rising fast, it means companies might pass those costs to consumers, like I said, which would increase higher inflation. And so for investors, that means if a high PPI can lead to rate hikes, usually bad for stocks. It impacts profit margins, especially for companies that can't pass higher costs to consumers. And this is why we were kind of liking what Walmart was doing, and we're listening to the strategies that a lot of these bigger companies are putting forth together. So why are these two metrics watched together? Well, retail sales equals demand side, how much consumers are buying. PPI equals supply side, how much it costs the business to produce goods. Together, they give a real-time snapshot of the economy's health, inflation, pressures, and Fed's likely next move, all of which directly impact stocks, bonds, and options markets, right? So let's finish, let's go watch this video. Let's look at this report. But before we do that, I need to take like a 5-minute break. So give me a second, guys. Hello? They're here? Okay. All right. Bye, love you. All right. Bye, love you. All right. Actually, I'm not going to take the break yet. Let's go ahead and start this video, and I'll come back. I might take the break right after. All right. Where are we at here? Here we go.
Kevin Hings, he's the co-host of Fast Market. He's live from the CBOE. Kevin, good morning. Let's start with the economic data, because it's a pretty busy morning on that front. We got PPI, we got retail sales, and of course we got weekly jobless claims. What did we learn?
Well, I think we learned, good morning, Caroline. I think we learned that inflation is coming down, much weaker numbers in terms of PPI, that's prices at the producer level. Then, I'll give them to you quickly. Producer prices, a monthly number down 0.5%. That's much lower.
Look, it's down 0.5%. We expected 0.2 increase. Now, I also want y'all to keep in mind, this is why I'm doing 30-day expiration dates on my options, because I think the numbers from the trade wars and the tariffs, they're not going to reflect to the next report. I don't think this is reflecting the supply chain issues that we've been having because of this trade wars. So let me continue.
Then the up 0.2 that was expected. Year over year, from 2.7% to 2.4%. Core, they were looking for up 0.3, comes in down 0.4. That's much weaker than expected. The core year over year, 3.1%. That's down 0.2 from last month. So overall, inflation at the producer level coming down. Then we got retail sales. That was positive, but a little weaker than expected. The headline, up 0.1. That is actually in line. X vehicles up 0.1. That's 0.2 shy of expectations of up 0.3. X vehicles and gas up 0.2. That's considerably less than last month, but all of last month's numbers were revised higher. So a little bit, even a strong number that we got last month from retail sales, all those were revised higher. But this one's certainly a softer number. Not negative, but a softer number than expectations. Then we got jobless claims, pretty much in line there, 229,000, 1,000 higher than last week. But like I said, in that high 220s, still indicative of a strong labor market, but definitely lower prices and inflation. And now the question is, what does that do for Jerome Powell? He's making comments this morning that rates are going to stay higher for longer based on economic changes and economic policy in flux. So the comments he's making this morning are talking about that. We also have comments from Jamie Dimon looking at the overall economy. There's a lot going on here. A lot.
You know, people talking a lot of shit about Jerome Powell, but we are almost having like a soft landing almost because he's not cutting rates the way, you know, inflation. But I will say people are talking about the next reports and that if he doesn't lower rates soon, it's going to be too late. And we're going to have some issues next month, June, July, in that area.
Not for investors to consume and digest to start the day. You're going to talk about Walmart's earnings. We've got Dick's Sporting Goods buying Foot Locker. I'm sure you'll talk about that throughout the show. There's a lot going on here, Diane. But one of the rhetoric is, oh, we've run so far. We've come so far. We have to back off, don't we? And some traders, some analysts still calling for softer markets. But so at least to start the day, down about 1/3% in the S&P, down about almost a.
Yeah. So the investor sentiment looks like, the combination of slowing retail sales and declining PPI. It's influencing investors' expectations regarding future economic growth and Federal Reserve policy decisions. And then the stock market reaction was kind of just whatever, right? It's like stable, modest movements. We opened the market in red and then it went green and now it's kind of just balanced, just kind of mixed. We just got mixed signals and it just might be because there's so much excitement already going on that, all of that excitement kind of overvalued things. And so these reports didn't really shoot the markets up like it could have had there not been, already great news all week, right? And so it kind of goes to show, man, like the resiliency of our economy, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, guys, that's all I got for you guys today on this live stream. I will be back tomorrow. So see you guys then, man. Thanks for hanging out with me for a couple hours. Well, only an hour, really. I might come back later on today. Actually, I'll probably come back later today, especially since I got a thumbs down. That ain't right.